This episode of Shaped is brought to you by Easy Mobile, exclusive to Chemist Warehouse. These holidays, staying connected matters more than ever. From the 1st of December 2025 to the 3rd of February 2026, you'll get double the data on selected 5G plans for the first 6 recharges. Enjoy unlimited calls and texts, Aussie-based support, and better value mobile with no lock-ins. Find Easy Mobile at Chemist Warehouse or online at easymobile.com.au. Selected plans only. Terms and conditions apply. Well, Rachael Taylor, former Australian rower, national champion, Olympian, and a world championship competitor.
Yes.
Won a silver. Whilst I'm super intrigued about the journey of getting to the absolute top of your game or sport, I'm really interested about the journey beyond that because I know that where your passion lies now and the transition of athletes, but also being a mum, going through a separation. There's so much more to your story that I'm really, really looking forward to understanding, learning about, and I'm sure there's going to be some amazing insights for our listeners to take and apply to their lives. So thank you so much for joining us on Shaped. I know that your journey started out there in the warm suburb of Ballarat here in Victoria.
Yes.
What was life like for you growing up?
Yeah.
Mum and dad, siblings?
Yes. Mum and dad, and I have 2 brothers, 2 younger brothers and an older sister. Very strong line of farming on both sides. Okay. So I'm from a long line of farmers on my mum's side.
Any
and
particular
my dad's
kind of farming?
You name it, potatoes, sheep, wool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything.
So there's just been a long line of really hard-working people on both sides. And so there was definitely this growing up. I grew up on a farm. It was just everything was about hard work and kind of a little bit stoic, just that stoicism. Irish Catholic as well. So let's just keep putting some more labels on this.
Relatively strict.
Yes, that's right. But I was very lucky to have a very, very outdoors childhood and roaming and wandering. Had my brothers and sisters there. We were like a gang. We still are, still great friends. And it was bloody freezing in Ballarat.
Particularly in winter.
Yeah. So I look back now and I really admire my former self because I did start rowing on Lake Wendouree at 14 years old, and that was really cold. So
was it only rowing when you grew up, or was there other sports? I mean, you said you were outdoorsy and there was obviously every day is a new adventure when you live on a farm.
Yeah.
But was it purely rowing?
Yeah, so I really didn't do a lot of organised sport.
Yeah.
We were constantly out roaming and running around. Actually, this is funny. I competed in the Country Fire Authority. There's actually competitions for like junior firefighters.
Like
so there's a real
hose
rule.
down a fire and
You're
stuff?
literally like standing on a start line. It's like, go. And you all run up and you run to a fire truck and start the pump and like climb a ladder and squirt a target. Anyway, so that's an interesting sport, Trent. But I was always good at sport at school. I was like naturally athletic. But no, I was not doing organised sport. I was like just riding around on bikes, going exploring on the weekends.
Yeah.
I was actually identified in a talent ID program through the Victorian Institute of Sport. So I was just tall and athletic, and the VIS ran this program and ran it in Ballarat in non-rowing schools.
Yep.
And so I was picked up through that. And if I think about, a girl from an Irish Catholic farming background in rural Victoria where really no one had been to university on either side of my family, or, women were mothers and were cooking for shearers, and, I was not on a trajectory of great opportunity, if I can say that. So it actually changed my entire life.
Does it blow your mind that, and maybe from a perspective point of view, like, do you think there are kids out there today that aren't afforded the opportunity or just don't have a passion in something that could well be the next world champion at something?
Yeah, totally. Isn't it? It's crazy, like just all this untapped talent walking around. But it's not even just about the sport. Like I just think about like what makes my brain explode is what that meant for me for the rest of my life and still now. Like that I got picked up in that one talent program, and I loved rowing. I just loved it straight away, and I was really good at it.
What did you love most about rowing? Like, because my experiences with rowing, just to keep it really brief, 2 Achilles injuries when I first got drafted, and our alternate to running the 10 as a time trial was the equivalent, so 3.8 kilometers on a
Oh no, that's
rower.
awful. Yeah.
The lactate experience, like you kind of would do a similar time to what you would run the 10 in, but the pain was, I think, tenfold. So to go and do that as your passion, but also as your job, you must be a little bit sick.
Yeah, I'll accept that. I think, I mean, we were having a chat earlier about the Ned Brockmans of the world. I think there's levels to just how sick you might be. Rowers definitely are a little bit tapped, and I think most people will agree with me on that. And I can see that in myself. I'm not like the other kids in that way.
Yeah.
And I could put it down to just being from a long line of really fucking hardworking people. So I've just got this capacity to work and suffer and hurt, and I liked it. But that was not what I liked about it, although I could sort of tolerate that better than most. I don't know. That's part of it. At first, I loved the freedom of it, like being out on the water and like it's just you're in nature and it's actually a really beautiful sport. Like you're out there at sunrise or sunset, and it's like this really it's sensory. Like it feels good when the boat's running and there's like these little bubbles under the boat and it feels good. So I love that sort of sensory and freedom sense. But then also I was a 14-year-old girl and I was at a Catholic girls' school. I was getting to hang out with boys down at the rowing club. So it also was like really social and it just opened up this whole new world that was not available to me previously. And I love that aspect to it too. Yeah.
I can only assume that as part of that journey, there was people that you were introduced to, coaches, maybe teammates, or people that you aspired to be like one day. Was there anyone in particular in your early stages that kind of shaped your love for the sport, or gave you a piece of advice that you carried with you through all your professional days?
Look, the coaches that I had, call out to Kate and Danny Elliott at Ballarat City Rowing Club, some of the most grounded, down-to-earth people you'll ever meet in your life, and just there to serve with nothing in return other than just that community service spirit. And I don't think there was any particular pieces of advice, but I do remember writing my year 12 English creative writing essay about Kate, my coach Kate, because she had such an impact on me. She was just really dry but just such a kind, beautiful soul who really cared about us all. So definitely that, there are people who are not your parents, they're not your school teachers, but they had such a profound impact on me as a person and set me up in those years to go forward into elite rowing. Just because they were, I don't know, I feel like I just came from a really beautiful, solid community base there. I was really lucky.
It's a nice foundation.
Yeah.
You spoke of elite rowing.
Yeah.
So you first compete for Australia at 18 years old?
Yes, as a junior, yes.
In 1994?
Yeah.
France?
Yes, France and Germany, yes.
And Germany?
Yeah.
What was that like? I assume you have these lofty goals or dreams when you start out in the sport, and I'm assuming, because I've never been there, but one of them is to represent your country.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that a moment in time where you go, wow, I didn't think this was possible? Or was it kind of, you just had the goggles on, like, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm working towards?
Bit of all of that. I definitely had the goggles on, and this is the sort of personality I am. Once I got put into that program, that Talent ID program, they're like, you physiologically have the capability. I was like, well, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to win a gold medal at the Olympics. That's what's happening. Like I sort of just got high. I got high on the Kool-Aid and I just ran with it. To represent Australia was a stepping stone to the goal, which was an Olympic gold medal. Yeah. So it was awesome. And I've always been proud to represent Australia. It's so much fun. But also that first trip away was the first time I'd left Australia. I was, I went and spent a month in Europe traveling with the Australian team. And I was just living my best life. Yeah. I was living my best life. And racing on the world stage, I naively at that age, Australia is quite good at rowing traditionally. We are a fierce nation in this sport. I went into that race just expecting to win because this is also a little bit how I'm wired. And we came 5th in the final. I was devastated. I think I came home and I was like, I'm done with rowing. I'm never doing that again. Like, this was an abject failure. And I really had to get talked back off the edge of that cliff to keep going, which was just immaturity
Yeah.
and naivety. So I was schooled. I had my ass handed to me on a plate that first year representing Australia.
Had it been pretty smooth sailing to that point?
Yeah.
You know, was it
Yeah.
win every race on the journey
Yeah.
to there?
Yeah.
I have a son who
Yeah.
loves to win, loves
Yeah.
to play, naturally kind of gifted,
Yeah.
but really struggles with the idea of losing. And I'm
Yes.
trying to educate him. He's only 6. Through your journey
Yeah.
and now being able to reflect on it, was there any pivotal moments where you kind of started to understand that, you know, actually, like, losing can be a blessing because
Totally.
you start to assess, you know,
Yeah.
I assume, you know, it's like my length of stroke or using my legs more or
Mm-hmm.
little moments in a race
Mm-hmm.
that actually end up being the difference between 5th and 3rd or
Yeah.
3rd and 1st.
Yeah. Yeah. What I now know, like I say, that coming 5th and being devastated, that was such naivety and immaturity. What I now know as an ex-athlete and also as a much older, wiser woman, is the road to success is littered with failure. What would be classified as failure, but now I just don't see it as failure. I'm like, okay, that was a lesson.
It's part
That
of the
was a
journey.
lesson. That was another
There's
lesson.
lots of lessons.
Yeah, and you only learn from the failures. Really, you don't learn that much from your wins. It's just a win.
Yeah.
They're great, but man, you spend some time in the room of mirrors when you fail or when you don't achieve what you wanted to. You don't meet your own expectations.
Evolving with that and adapting those kind of thought processes then allow you the opportunity to compete at a number of world championships, but also the Olympic Games in 2000.
Yeah, yeah.
You fall heartbreakingly short and win silver.
Yes.
Which to the majority of people out there, and I know that you've spoken about this many times, is the greatest achievement. You know, to win an Olympic silver medal is something you should be completely or absolutely proud of, which I'm sure you are. But when you're an athlete and all you see is that gold is success, how much did it hurt?
Yeah, it's a really big one. It was a really confusing time for me. So it's a home Olympics, which, I mean, what a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be at the right time, right stage, right age, everything, just all my stars aligned. I had gone into that race, and this time I'm not naive and I'm not you know,
had the experiences.
I knew what was what. We were going in as some of the race favourites. I had never allowed myself to think about anything other than gold, and you know, I'd visualized that race many, many times. We had always won. We'd done World Cup and, you know, a lot of racing in Europe in the season and the 2 years beforehand, and we were always contenders. We were medalists. To go in and, you know, it was a really tough race, and we were 1 point fuck all seconds behind gold. And you're crossing the line in Sydney where all of my friends and family were there, and unlike you guys at racing, compete in front of huge crowds, and we don't in rowing, to hear a whole grandstand, like an MCG level grandstand full of Australians cheering. It was just the most elated feeling. But I personally was relieved when it was over, but I just got instantly confused by getting swept up in the circus of joy and elation and what everyone wanted me to be feeling versus my very, very private disappointment and pain about coming second, which obviously I've gotten over this and all I am now is proud and I'm so grateful. But at the time, and that when I say at the time, like it was acute, that pain for 2 to 3 years. I was really
was that long?
Devastated. Yeah, heartbreaking.
Because you use the words like sadness, disappointment, devastation.
Yeah.
You say 2 to 3 years. What does that process of unpacking how you truly feel actually look like? Because, you know, everyone that was there, I assume, are saying, you know, we know that you would have loved to get gold, but silver's such an amazing achievement. And they're kind of trying to help you along the journey, but often when you're in that state, it's kind of like, it doesn't matter what the fuck you say to me, I've failed.
Yeah. And look, this is the way I describe the feeling is probably, you know, I mean, you know, when I watched the AFL Grand Final, right, there's two teams, both going to win. There's no one's on that in the MCG wanting to come runner-up.
Yeah.
And when it ends and then there's the making the speeches and then the other teams are still like cheering and like running around, you just see this elation. Then there's this other team just slumped on the grass and just like devastated. That feeling, that is a feeling I had.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that other people were coming up to me going, oh, I know you want to go, but Silver's really good. They weren't. They were just going, fuck yeah, you got it, Silver. You must be stoked. This is awesome. Let's go to the party. Like there was no one saying, oh, are you disappointed? Of course they weren't. I even sound like I don't even like saying it now because I feel like a bit like a brat saying I didn't like coming second. It's just an insight into how warped the mindset is of an elite athlete. So I think it's a really abstract thing to talk about, but because it was Sydney, it was amplified, the circus. It just went straight into ticker tape parades and the Olympic Village and awards, and we're traveling around to all the different cities, and it's media and it's functions and it's this and it's that, and it's all celebration.
Yeah.
It's all like everyone wants to get on board the Rachael train because I've got a medal. And inside, in my private moments, I'm just like having very brief moments of just bawling my eyes out and just not understanding what's going on, really conflicted. And also I very quickly worked out that there was no place for me to voice this disappointment and nobody would understand at all.
Yeah.
Like there's no one wants to hear it. It's an inconvenience. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
So I hid those emotions. I shelved them. And
which is a heavy weight to carry, right?
Oh man, it was this is not a great story. Like that's why it took 2 to 3 years for me to come out the other side. I got to the point where I didn't even want people to know I'd been to the Olympics because I didn't want to fake the highlights reel story because it was so inauthentic to me. But what I was feeling inside was so negative. And yet what this person wanted to hear was just so positive. And for me to just put that on again and again and again was a real stretch. So I did get to a point where I was not ashamed, that's the wrong word, but it was clouding me on such a level. So how did I process it? Only by time. And now I just don't even care at all. Obviously, I can't even relate to that version of me now. I can't even relate to her. But I feel so sad for her because she actually had no support around her.
Yeah.
She had what I actually needed. I can see this now. This is something that was completely lacking at the time. What I needed at that time was to be talking to a therapist, like proper mental health support. So I was completely, I'm going to say unhinged. My perspective as an elite athlete required that mindset to get to that start line and be a medal contender.
Yeah.
But that mindset afterwards was disabling and I needed help to unpack that and I didn't have it. And I also didn't have any form of debrief afterwards, which is crazy as well, right? This is really crazy. I needed to debrief that. So
was that the last time you competed?
No, I went back a year later. So I'd sort of retired and thought that was it. I'm done. But a year later, decided to go back and row again. I did one more year, made the Australian team again, and then retired properly. It was it was an interesting time. It was an interesting time.
We'll touch on financial independence and the fact that you've had to kind of find that and educate yourself along the journey as what's come after the fact. But as an Olympic athlete, I think the assumption out there might be that, you know, you represent Australia, you're going to earn good money, but unless you have a huge marketing capability, it's a pretty fair old grind. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Certainly in a sport like rowing, you know, and we were very good at rowing. We were not some muppets. We were some of the best in Australia. Well, we were the best in Australia at that point. I think we got awarded the Rowers of the Year that year. You know, we had some sponsors like Oakley sunglasses, but it was product. It wasn't cash. So we were living off. There is a pool of funds that's given to elite athletes. It's an incentive program. So there was enough money coming in to sort of just, buy ice creams on tour type thing,
Yeah.
put petrol in the car to get to training. But there wasn't any, I finished in debt. So I finished the Olympic Games $3,000 in debt. And we were awarded $7,500 for
So
silver,
you're in front.
which is great.
Perfect.
I was netting enough to get a bond and some furniture and upgrade my freaking 1976 Corolla. So no, I finished skint, and I don't care. It wasn't never about
Just
the
part
money.
of the journey.
Yeah, it was never about the money. But I certainly was on the back foot. Let's put it that way.
Is there one particular moment that just gives you goosebumps when you reflect on your time as a professional?
Yeah.
Outside of, or maybe that wasn't a time. Well, I assume the loudness and the cheering
Yes.
home
Yeah.
was a moment where
Yeah.
the hairs stand up on the back of the neck. But
There's actually a few. But walking into the stadium, Australia, whatever they called it at Sydney for the opening ceremony,
yeah,
that was probably that's probably like a peak experience of my life. It was just wild. Like for the sort of hours and hours before we marched around the track, because we were the host nation, you march last, so Australia goes last. We were all held in this other stadium nearby, the whole world, all the other athletes, and everyone's just doing war cries and chants, and like it was just like this mania, of nationalism and just competition, and all in good spirit. And slowly every other nation's getting called out and corralled into the the big, where you run out into the stadium. And I can just remember we were already all peaking by the time we had to sort of do the 1 kilometre or so walk into the bellows of Stadium Australia. And just to hear the noise of the crowd out there waiting for us to come out, it was just like nothing else on earth. And then it just got louder on the track for the whole, 400 metres. And it was just the energy in that moment. Yeah, I don't think I've ever felt anything like that. I don't think I ever will again. It was an absolute privilege. Maybe Brisbane 2032, the athletes might get to, they might get close. Yeah, yeah.
So you make the decision to retire officially for the second time round.
Yeah.
When you ask yourself the question, who am I without rowing?
Yeah.
How hard was that for you at the time, now knowing what you know? Is your whole identity Rach Taylor, the rower?
Yes, yes. So I was a walking red flag, Trent, and I know this now.
Explain that a little bit more for our listeners.
If we're just going to talk about identity alone, we know from the research that the more enmeshed your identity is in your sport, the harder your transition out is going to be. And yet it's one of the most common things you see as an athlete is that you are only
what you do,
a rower.
Yep.
I had left, I'd started rowing at 14, which is, a psychologist would say that's when you're forming your identity anyway. So I locked one in. It was called Rach the Rower. And then I just put everything into that. And this was back in the late 90s, the early 2000s. The sport of rowing is quite autocratic as well. We were not encouraged to be anything else. There was not encouragement to go out and have a career, try some jobs, like have some hobbies, socialize outside of the sport. That was not. It was a bit inconvenient actually. It was going to get in the way of training. Yeah. So there was almost a bit of a cultural nuance that you would just row and fucking go all in.
Yeah. And then go into coaching rowing.
Yeah, or just you're just going to row. Like just commit. Be all in. So I was entirely a rower. Yeah, I had attempted university twice, and that sort of just got put in the backseat to the Olympic dream because I just couldn't make it work with all the travel we were doing, and this was not when online learning was a thing. Even then, even if online learning was a thing, I was so distracted and so single-mindedly focused. But you said how was it a problem for me? It was. I know now because I've read the research. It would have actually benefited me athletically and maybe a couple of percent, maybe a gold medal, to have had a more balanced identity. That the research shows that athletes that have multiple hats or dual careers, it doesn't even have to be careers, but just wear multiple hats, actually perform better on the field. Because when we had a shit training session, I took it personally. When we didn't perform in a race, I took it personally. When we came second at the Olympics, I had failed. Like Rachel,
Everything I exist for.
everything was a fail. There was not like, well, I'm still a mother, or I've still got a, I'm still a doctor, or I don't know, I'm still a really great guitar player in a band. There was nothing else.
Yeah.
So it was like having, well, it was just a complete train wreck actually, because I just lost all my purpose and all my meaning, and that's a really big deal.
Yeah.
And you just can't predict. I had no knowledge to forewarn myself about this.
Yeah.
So it was jarring. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it took a long time to work out.
You then go in to transition into a HR corporate career.
Yeah.
Because clearly you and I both know the transition between being an athlete into the next phase of your life.
Yeah.
But I assume there's people out there that are in a career or on a career path that is supposed to look a certain way.
Yeah.
But there'll still be transition moments in their life. So does the same kind of methodology apply to have other interests outside of what your everyday is?
Absolutely.
And shifting your identity from just being that one thing?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously all transitions have a nuance, whether you're the partner in the law firm and then the next day you're not, whether you're walking around healthy, the next day you've got cancer, whether you're a parent one day, the next day you're not, like it, or vice versa. They all have their own nuance, but if you've got all your eggs in that basket, you are going to struggle. Think about women, the empty nest syndrome, when the children go to, like they leave and they've lost everything because all they were was a mother. It's the same thing. So yeah, it's never wise. You should always try and have a few different pathways that you're exploring in life.
You've referenced corporate burnout a lot, and I'm someone who hasn't experienced that. I have no idea what it feels like, what it looks like, what are the telltale signs. For people out there that may be going through that and don't actually know, through your experiences, is there telltale signs that actually allow them to go, far out, I need to take a breath here, and I need to actually start to unpack a little bit of what's going on in my life, what I need to prioritize, and just feel good again? Can you take me through maybe your experience, but also what you see in some of the people that you help?
And before we do that, I'll just say with athletes, I think overtraining looks and smells pretty similar.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an element to like just overtraining that can be just full nervous system just shut you down. There's that. I saw that. It never happened to me as an athlete, but it's got similar traits. But if I talk to me personally, I was in a career that I loved, but where it started to slip into burnout is when the workload just became crushing. I had a lot going on outside of work as well as going on at work. I was using work to actually as a negative coping mechanism to
outside of work, I'm assuming, but relationship.
Yep. So I was recovering.
And then obviously being a mum as well.
Yep. So I've got two young boys.
Which we can touch on separately.
Yeah.
So stay on the corporate burnout
side. So recovering from a family breakdown, let's call it a relationship breakdown, 2 young boys, pandemic, stuck in WA, all my family over here in Victoria, a few other things going on with a best friend of mine who had betrayed me on a very, very severe level, and working in a Big 4 consulting firm, just absolutely pumped with 9,500 people in the pandemic, just like screws are on. And what I'd always loved this career, and the early signs were I just started getting really negative and really cynical. And I'd seen this in other people at work, and I was like, I don't like being around them because they're just so negative about work. And I started turning into one of them. And then it started to feel just like I was drowning, because I was out of control of my workload, and I was sort of like having to advocate for myself and not being able to find a way out. But then it's just exhaustion, like a lack of motivation and exhaustion at the same time, but sleeping problems. So because your cortisol is so fucking high, you can't switch off, even though you need to. So it's like your nervous system just starts literally malfunctioning. But yes, I'm dealing with one of my clients at the moment in a career coaching sense, and that was one of the things she reported to me this week. She's been working with the most crippling workload. I can relate to it. unsustainable for a very long time. Her body's already started, like,
Giving
I would say
warning
not
signs.
whispering, screaming. She's
Yep.
having some health issues. And she's like, I'm just starting to really get cynical and negative. And I'm like, this is like, we are on the edge,
Yeah.
teetering on the edge.
So what's the immediate process
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
trying to go on the journey of fixing it? Or
Yeah. So, I mean, fixing it's not easy because this is a nervous system
Yep.
issue, right? Your whole nervous system is
Needs to reset
dysregulated now.
effectively, right?
Yeah. So whilst you're still in the stressor, it
ain't gonna
won't
change.
regulate. And if you don't have the skills, I had to learn through burnout
Yep.
how to regulate my nervous system. And I'm actually really grateful for that burnout because it taught me things I wish I had have fucking known as an athlete.
And now you
actually.
can help others
Yeah.
on the same journey.
Yeah. But it takes a lot of time. If you think about like a coil, like you're coiled so
Wound right
tight,
up.
right? And you can't. So for example, this client who's going through this right now, she's gone in this week to negotiate leave with her work, and she's got such a crushing workload. That's going to be a major drama to take leave. And I've just said to her, if you don't get some leave, like, and I'm not talking 3 days, like you need a break off, switch off, complete rest, like bring the nervous system down.
Anyway.
We are going to end up in workers' comp, fair work. It's going to get really ugly because you're going to break. Like this is what will happen next. So it's negotiating a break, and the longer you can get out, the better, because it takes a lot of time for that coil to uncoil. And you can't be a passive passenger in this. You need to be an active participant in the uncoiling.
Yep.
You need to do things that will bring you back into regulation. And so I wish I could say there's like some quick fix, but there's not. It's and it's a privilege if you're able to leave your career, which is what I ended up doing, leaving for a long period and taking 6 months to actually get back to who I am and recover and actively do all of these sort of regulating activities. So it's
one of those regulating activities, and I know you're big on values.
Yep.
Is it then going back and reestablishing,
Yes.
what are my values? Yep. How do I want my life to look like? A bit of the stuff that you started with regards to the transition.
Yeah.
Is it about coming back to that? And is there a process that you went on? Yeah. Was that after burnout, or was it post-career, athletic career?
No, I think...
Or just part of the journey?
Yeah, I think I've always had a fairly strong sense of my values, but I've never articulated them like really being able to just list them off.
Can you bang them out right now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So my top value is health and well-being.
Yep.
My second is connection, and that encompasses family. And then it's integrity/honor.
Yep.
And I'm like, those are the top three. Everything after that just sort of blends. But if those three are in order, I'm good. Yep. I'm healthy. But I started actually, because in HR, you're often working with corporate values, right? Yeah. The organizational values. I was very across the idea of values. I started having a values conflict in my role. Yep. I was having to do things at work that were against my values. I had fundamental issues with the way our workforce, the impact the work was having on their personal well-being and their ability to connect with their families. I saw things and had to do things that challenged me on an integrity level. And this was part of the burnout, is me starting to actually fracture. Yep. It became ethical. It became a values-based decision, and that was making me sick.
Yeah.
So through all of that pain, it became crystal clear to me what my values are. And in leaving that career, I made a very conscious decision to only ever do things going forward that are aligned to my values. Yeah.
What's a simple way of people that are sitting there going, I think I have a clear picture of who I am or how I want to be perceived in this world, or how I want to show up.
Yeah.
Is there one activity, I've used previously, writing your own eulogy? Yeah. Because if the people you love most are speaking about you, then they're going to speak about the things that you were true to you.
Yeah.
I've always found that's a really easy, not an easy way.
It's a heavy way.
About your death. Yeah. It's quite deep, but it's also a really unique way of actually establishing it. Is there any other little tips you can give away?
One of the things I love doing with my clients is, and I'll do this at the beginning of any coaching series with all my clients, is what I call a life by design session. And it's like a future casting. You'll go, okay, Trent, let's assume everything has gone as as well as it possibly could for you. Everything is going swimmingly, and let's project you forward 3, 5 years, whatever time horizon you want into the future. And we can look at it like, if we're just going to look at values, we could look at what's an ideal day look like. And I want you to tell me in the present tense, that Trent, what's an ideal day? What do you do when you wake up in the morning? How are you spending your time? Who's around you? What do people come to you for? What practices have you got to look after yourself? What are you eating? Like, where are you? And we really, really dive into it over an hour. So what ends up happening is you get out of the sort of prefrontal cortex and you get into that real limbic system. You get out of the head and down into the heart, and people, like with prompting, with coaching.
How much trouble do people have doing that? Because you would have a mixed, right? You'd have people who are really clear on what they need that to look like or want that to look like. And then the other people who go, I think that's what I want. But then as you kind of digress and talk about it more and more, you're like, far out. I landed so far away from what I thought.
Yeah, it's a really good, it's probably my favorite thing to do as a coach, because people can be like, what? We're going to do what at the beginning, and be a bit resistant to this, like imaginary world we're going to go into type thing. But people all get into it. And maybe it takes a brilliant coach like me to just, it's questioning. I'll just keep asking questions. And so what, have you got any spiritual practices that you're doing in the day? Like, we'll just keep going. I'll just keep diving, keep pressing. And that you just see people just get on this roll. And then it always happens over an hour. We'll step back and go, oh my God, look at what we've just created. We do it in this like big Zoom whiteboard with Post-it notes everywhere. And where this becomes a values exercise is you can then step back and look at that and go, okay, so what does this tell us about what's important? What surprises you looking at this? And it might be that the surprise is that everything almost is related to family or children.
But I'm actually not investing time.
But I'm spending 80 hours a week at work. Or in this 5-year imaginary perfect version of me picture, I'm spending all this time outside in nature, yet I'm living in this apartment in the Docklands. You know what I mean? So you can start to like look just by looking at that ideal state, and it takes a bit of effort to get there. It gives you the breadcrumbs, the clues as to what's most important to you, and that's a fun way to do it. It's probably more fun than your eulogy.
It does sound a bit more fun than writing about being dead. So maybe take Rachel's advice rather than mine in that. For me, my values that I established, and these can be forever changing, but I think they're at the core and will be for a very long time, is love, curiosity. So love being in capturing family, friends, and time spent. Curiosity being kind of just willing to try new things, putting myself out there, but also being interested rather than interesting. And then authenticity, which is just about being true to who I am, but also showing up in the world the way that I know I should.
I just instantly want to put my coach hat on and start like
digging away at it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Unpacking it a bit. Well, we can do that.
We can do that
at another
time. Yeah, that's right.
As we talk about the importance of connection and community, it's a good reminder that this time of year is all about staying close to the ones you love most. That's why Shaped is proudly supported by Easy Mobile, exclusive at Chemist Warehouse. From December 1st, 2025 to February 3rd, 2026, you'll get double the data on selected 5G plans for the first 6 recharges. Enjoy unlimited calls and texts, Aussie-based support, and better value mobile with no lock-ins. Grab a SIM at Chemist Warehouse or activate a free eSIM at easymobile.com.au online. Selected plans only, terms and conditions apply. You spoke of family, 2 sons, a relationship breakdown.
Yes.
How long were you together before, I'm not going to say things went pear-shaped, and can you share the journey of the initial phase? Becoming a mum is such an amazing time of your life. And having seen it firsthand with Brooke and our kids, it is just such special times. I imagine at your stage, I know that it was kind of going into the next phase of your working life as well. What was it like for you?
Becoming a parent? It was the biggest shift I could never have imagined happening. And what's so surprising about it is you could never have imagined that you could have that much capacity for love until you have children. It's just radical that there's so much more in you. So it was the most difficult thing I've ever done. I did not enjoy being pregnant in the early years with little babies. I found that
What
was
parts of being pregnant did you not enjoy? Was it the fact that your body was forever changing? Um, or was it more so just the fact that you were unwell? Because some people go on that journey and can't
yeah.
stop vomiting, which I
I
can
think
imagine being shit.
yeah, yeah, and I do have a lot of compassion. I was not sick. I had healthy pregnancies. I think a lot of it did come from like this was 5 years post elite athlete.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was a very competitive national level surfboat rower. And then next minute, I'm pregnant, which was the plan.
So it was the adjustment and the evolution of
Yeah, it was like
you and your
physically,
life.
I just felt disabled. And
Yeah.
I wanted to get out and move the way I'm very physical. I
Yeah.
love training and I really just couldn't. And I struggled with that.
Yeah.
I really struggled with not physically having my body healthy, fit, able to move
In the way that it
in the way
always
that
has
I
been.
enjoy
Yeah.
moving it. And I still do now. But at the same time, I just remember like just being in awe of like this miracle that I'm growing a human. It's like just breaks your
It still
brain.
blows my mind.
Yeah. And also like it's mind-boggling, the physiological changes, the hormonal changes whilst pregnant, post-pregnancy, in the year after breastfeeding. Like it's just radical.
Yeah.
I was able to feed 2 humans with one body, create them and feed them for a year each
Yeah.
afterwards. And whilst that radically compromised me as a human, and what I mean by that is I love my life. I love going out and going for runs or going to have coffees. I love reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
I'm always doing a million things. I was just now stuck with the baby. I found that really hard.
Yeah.
We don't live in a little tribal village anymore. You're surrounded by
Yeah.
everyone helping you. It's just you're just alone with this baby.
There's a lot of women that I think go on that journey and kind of want to hide how they're truly going.
Yeah,
How
totally.
important is it now that people feel like that they can go, you know what?
Yeah.
It has been a big life change
Yeah.
and I do need support. I know that you're very big on having that support crew in every facet of
Yeah.
your journey through life.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time that'll remain the same. One of my favorite sayings is that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
That's right. Yeah.
But I think there is a lot of those lifetime people that are there and need to be there through these kind of significant moments in your life.
Totally.
Is there anything that you used with that part of your transition that helped kind of navigate it?
I really struggled with that transition. I mean, I'd struggled with the athlete transition. I was still transitioning out of that. And at the time, I was so under physically and mentally. I couldn't actually see even where I could reach up for help. I wasn't even able to ask for the help I needed. I distinctly remember feeling a little bit cheated because everyone had just sort of given me this version of early motherhood that was going to be just beautiful and wonderful and perfect and amazing. And then I'm like, well, why have I got a baby with colic that doesn't stop crying and I haven't slept for more than an hour for a year? Like, why am I feeling like death? You know, like this is so hard. And I distinctly remember thinking that there is just this mask that women wear and these old wives' tales that are told to women and passed down beforehand that are not honest and they're not real. And it's crazy. And I don't understand it. So I made a point because I am just pretty authentic and pretty direct of, you know, going to mother's group and just saying it how it was.
Yeah.
And I remember the looks in some women's eyes. I was like, I was saying the thing you shouldn't say.
But everyone was like, I agree completely.
But I ended up making some really good friends because some women were just like, oh my God, she's actually going through, she's prepared to say it and we can speak authentically about this. So it's just, there's such an important, like it's so important to just own your truth and be real, authenticity, your value.
Through your relationship breakdown, which I can only imagine is hard when you're raising two boys.
It's the worst,
what has been the most significant lesson on that journey that you've learned about yourself, but also of the importance in relationships?
Good question. It is probably one of the hardest things to have gone through ever because my children are the most important thing on earth. And
did you stay in the relationship longer thinking that was the right thing for the kids?
And I think most people do.
Yeah.
So you're looking at I had grown up in a family where women were martyrs is the wrong word. Women always put others' needs ahead of their own. So I was in this position in the relationship where I was slowly recognizing that I was not happy. I was doing what I could to sort of resolve that, but I was really not happy. And as that grew, this really huge discomfort was coming up around. I'm going to have to face this, which means I'm going to have to put my needs ahead of my children's. And what I'm looking at here is what I thought at the time, I'm going to fuck them up for life because I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. I'm going to break them, and they're the most important thing to me. So that's the gravity of the thinking that you're going through. And there's quite a few years where I was in the relationship, but the love was dead or dying. And it was the loneliest I've ever been in my life in those last few years, which is a really hard place to be. But I'm hanging in there because I have these beautiful, beautiful children. And so through all of this, Tim and I split up, and we went through this. We're almost the couple that consciously uncoupled. It was almost pragmatic in the end, like very, very honorably done. And what we ended up doing, which I don't know anyone else doing this to this day, is we've both come at it with the most genuine, the children come first theory. Like that was our guiding principle, and it's as authentic in Tim as it is in me. We kept the children in the family home, and he and I decided to swap in and out. And we decided to do that because we just our whole principle was to disrupt them as little as possible. And now we're 7 or 8 years down the track, co-parenting really well, and those boys are just freaking awesome. They're brilliant. I did not break them. I think they're better for it. That's a crazy thing to say. I'm not recommending this to anyone.
When you say that, the better for it, I assume when you get to a place where the love is dying or it's gone.
Yes. This is exactly right.
It's not an environment where kids thrive anyway.
That's exactly right.
And that's not to say that people in their relationships, through my own friendship groups and so forth, you do have moments where it's hard and then there's great moments.
Totally. That's part of it.
But I suppose it's the courage to kind of go, well, is it just a something thing at the moment, or is it something that we know is going to be better? And that's effectively where you guys had got to.
And you use the word courage, and it was the most courageous thing I've ever done in my life, and the scariest thing I've ever done in my life is to make that call. But it's just so nice to be sitting here so many years later and just go, this is all like worked out for the best. And they've seen such a great version of me ever since. They really have. And I'm just so grateful that they've seen me in my true spirit and the happiest version of me. And they would be seeing that through Tim. He's a really great dad. And so they've gotten the best of each of us, and we haven't rocked their little boat. They just live in the same house, and he and I live the discombobulated life of what other kids get dragged through. And that's just how it is, right? So they're like these two little lords living in this nice home, and there's just a parent swapping in and out, fumbling around, packing bags. But look, it's all worked out for the best. But man, I learned a lot about everything through that. It was, made the Olympics eclipse into nothingness. Just like the least important part of me, or the least interesting part, is the Olympics.
You spoke of the courage. And I suppose part of that courage is, one, to even just initially have that conversation. But there must be other parts, you know, when you are mum and most of your priority is just making sure that you create the best environment or opportunities for your kids. Then to step away and go, shit, I actually have to, financial independence becomes a big thing. And you're a big advocate on this. And I think the stats suggest that 2 out of 3 women over 55 are in income poverty.
Isn't that crazy?
It's a scary fact. You had to build your own, and how important was that as part of your journey to then being confident enough that you've got this?
Yeah, totally. I'm so proud of this. It was such a journey. It was so the relationship I'd been in with Tim, and this is so common, and I'd had this modeled to me as a child growing up, that, you know, Dad would go out and earn the money, and Mum worked a bit, but she was pretty much the mum. We sort of fell into these traditional roles in our relationship, and that included with finances. And so when Tim and I split up, we'd spent a lot of time together renovating. We were like living through an episode of The Block. That was our life for a long time. We were super renovators. We had accumulated quite a lot of property and assets. So we divided them up. But I suddenly was like, oh my God, I just don't have this skill set. I do not have this skill set. And I'm in my 40s now. I've not had to fucking learn this. It was almost like, Trent, it was almost like I had outsourced parts of myself, as you do. Like in a great relationship, you can afford to do that. You can outsource parts of yourself. I didn't need that capability at that time. So it was a real year or two of what felt like really turning into the fullest version of myself, having to like step up and own and do things that I had never had to do before, and go and learn things and really take responsibility for things. I fucking loved it, actually. Like I really did. And I've just found it so empowering ever since. Like I really geek out on this stuff now.
And did that give you the courage to then, start your own business?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So the other thing, whilst I was with Tim and in the relationship, I'd made a conscious decision based on research in child psychology, because I'm a bit of an academic geek. I had done the research before having babies, and I had concluded that the best case scenario for these children would be that one of us would stay home with them for the first 3 years when they're in their formative years, with a absolutely secure attachment, right? And actually thought I was going to be some sort of hippie natural parent. That sort of changed pretty quickly. But, we're going to be co-sleeping and all this. Anyway, I certainly lived up to most of my ideals, but I had made this decision that, and it was obvious I was going to be the one, because Tim at this point was growing a business and I was at this point studying still and working at like Quicksilver or something.
Yeah.
So I stayed home with the kids for the first 3 years, and I was studying my master's in the second half of that, but still I was the primary carer at home. But what sort of evolved in this traditional roles thing is, when that phase ended and they're now in kindy and school and stuff, I started taking, and Tim by this stage had grown the business to a significant size, and I'm supporting him to do that. I still wanted to be there for the kids. So I started taking on roles in HR after I'd done my master's that were accommodating around the family, right? They were part-time and they were a bit easier. They were close to home or whatever it was. That my assessment of the roles I would take on was based on the family and the kids. And I don't regret any of this, but it was curtailing me in a way.
Yeah.
And when Tim and I split up, I remember just going, oh my God, because we decided to do 50-50, 1 week on, 1 week off. I'm like, oh my God, I've just got all this time on this second week. Like, oh my God. And then I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Because I hadn't asked myself that question for a really long time. I'd had children. And I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to go and work in one of the big 4 consulting firms and just fucking smash it career-wise for a while. And so I did. I just went and jumped into that. So at the same time as sort of, forging my steel financially, renovating properties alone now by myself. I've done 3 of those. Working in hardcore, big 4 consulting firms, corporate HR. Like I've really put myself out there. I'm just like, I'm going to go and do what I want to do. And it was awesome. Like I feel like I have actualized in a way that I was somehow muting myself. I don't regret that, because I can see how good the kids are, and a lot of that has to do with the sacrifices I made for them in those early years. It really, I know that. So it's been an interesting journey. Yeah.
Seeing that and realizing how much power that's given you to go out there and smash it in one of the big 4s and so forth. I'm assuming you would, in your role where you are mentoring or advising or consulting, you would see the opposite, where they are so consumed by their world that they've almost forgotten about some of the things that maybe they've realized now. I've either missed a big portion of my kids' younger days. How do you navigate those conversations where people are literally at a point where they're like, well, I can't go back, but how do I change that moving forward? And I think that also goes into helping athletes transition into the next. Is there kind of like, I know that there'd be a heap of different elements to that journey. But is there kind of one or two that you really like to focus on with people when you're sitting down and breaking down their world? I know you've touched on one of the exercises.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that exercise, that's why we have it as a starting point, because it shines a spotlight onto what's important. And then you can start having the conversations around where we're out of alignment with that already. And if that becomes a conversation about work, it becomes a conversation about work. And it doesn't always. It might just be a conversation around your health and well-being that comes up. But it's a hard one, because you do see it a lot in the hardcore corporate world, and I've also worked in the legal industry, and so I've been in professional services. You see this stuff a lot. You get a lot of very type A, very smart, very driven people, and they've sort of gone to school, gone to uni, gone to the internship, cadetship, straight in, and they're in a pipeline, and they're on a partner track, and it's just go, 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 and they sort of, it's such a stereotype. They wake up one day at 40 and they're 40 kilos overweight. They've got 3 failed relationships, kids everywhere. They don't know, you know, they're unhealthy, and they're really wealthy, really wealthy, really unhealthy, really disconnected from the people they love. So it's a bit of a modern day parable of Western culture. You just, I mean, where do you start with this stuff? Don't wait for the fucking heart attack.
Yeah.
That would be my advice on this one.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the wake up call a lot of people wait for. Yeah.
Alternatively, because I think it's harder to see it when it's you that's in that position.
Yes.
What would your encouragement be for people that are seeing this with a dear friend or a colleague or someone who's on this journey where you're like, oh my God, like, you're killing it from a business sense or a progression sense.
Yeah.
But geez, you look the worst you've looked in a while.
Yeah.
You don't seem very happy.
Yes.
Like, what's one thing, you may have seen it, that you can use from a conversation point of view that helps you kind of, and I know that every personality is different. Like some people, particularly those A-type people, probably aren't going to like hearing it, but it can be life-changing.
Yeah.
Or life-saving.
Yeah. I do have a friend like this at the moment, and I have had this conversation. I think it's got to depend on the relationship, because that's not an easy thing to say. That's almost like confronting someone's drinking problem.
Yeah.
You're confronting their overwork problem, and you can see it. And in this particular scenario, the relationship is breaking down, and it is breaking down because of an overwork issue. But it's never as simple as it seems.
Yeah.
If you look under the covers, there's really fundamental reasons that person is overworking that are related to their childhood and scarcity mindsets and a bit of trauma. Like, it's just not straightforward. So it's not like as a mate you can sort of point it out and expect it to change. Someone has to be willing to change. Like, it's like, you know, the first rule of coaching, people can come to you, they need to be willing to change.
Yep.
So something has to trigger that.
It's a rock bottom moment, right?
Yeah, but
sadly,
I know, right? Yep. Most of us wait for a train wreck of some sort. Yep. And to wake up. I waited for severe burnout in the corporate world before I really woke up and took action on all of this stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of friends, you touched on a good friend who betrayed you. Are you able to share, one, what that experience is like and why it happened, or what happened, and the lesson from it? Yeah.
Yeah, it still hurts. Betrayal is very complex. So it was my very best friend, and it's a hard one to talk about. She was actually sleeping with my ex,
hence the breakdown.
That was one of the reasons. And this had been ongoing for quite some time while she was showing up as my best friend. What are the lessons from that? So the lessons from that, and this was a really complex one, and I ended up in therapy over this because I blamed myself originally, which is not the right approach. But apparently this is really common with betrayal, and there is a certain trauma that comes with severe betrayal like this. It's quite common that you blame yourself. So what I started doing is like just going, how did I let someone like that get close to me? My judgment is flawed. I attacked myself. And I really went to town on myself. And that's what took me to therapy, because I'm like, this is not right. Yeah. But the other thing that started showing up, and I've always been a very loved person, and no one has ever fucked with me, to be honest. No one's ever betrayed me. So it was the first time I'd been really damaged by somebody. And what ended up happening is I started looking at all the people in my life, all of them who I love,
and questioning
them. Yeah. And started going, I wonder if they knew. I wonder if they didn't tell me. Or the ones that I knew sort of did know, I was just like, fucking had to cut them out. It became pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And I started doubting everyone, which is just the opposite of who I am. So recognizing these things in me took me into therapy. So again, this was an awesome teacher. I've always learned my lessons the hard way, Trent. And it's been a really long healing process for me, because there's been no sort of apology or resolution from that person. I've had to heal it myself and come to terms with it myself and work through a lot of the stuff myself.
How much did it impact your self-worth?
Self-worth, I don't know that I went down that path. I attacked my own judgment. So that
Parts
certainly
of you rather than yourself.
I took a knife to that part of me. I started doubting my judgment, my ability to judge a character. Definitely. I started drinking a lot. And now I can look back on that phase and go, that's what you were doing. I was similar to when I retired from sport. These were similar patterns. I've worked them out now. I started overworking. I started drinking more. I started partying more, going out more. I was not taking good care of myself. So and it was all a trauma response. Is what it was. I can see that all now. It was a really unhealthy way to deal with a really hard situation. And it's taken a lot of work to. I'm still not through it. Like this is something that's a scar in me. Yeah, but I'm not. It's not a wound anymore. It's more like a scar. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being so honest and sharing that with us.
It's unbelievably common. Sadly, things like that. Yeah, didn't think would happen to me.
I can imagine. I know we've taken up a lot of your time, but I do like to finish with a couple of questions. One is, I think I know what your definition of success was as an athlete, and that was gold.
It was.
Anything but gold was success.
Yeah.
How do you define it now? In life.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of how I show up in the world, right? So it's like a daily metric almost. When I'm feeling vibrant, like really healthy, really vibrant, and really grounded. So not sort of crazy, because I can get like that. I can get like really hyped up when I'm like really grounded, really vibrant, really healthy, really clear, and really connected to people, the people I love or whoever I'm with. To me, that's success. And if I can feel like that on my deathbed or, in the weeks leading into it, I know that when I'm showing up like that, everything is good. Everything happens like it should. So it's almost like an energetic, it's almost a resonance. It's a way I can sort of assess it.
Do you have anything in place that allows you to kind of assess that, say when you get up in the morning, or is there a routine that you stick to day in, day out that allows you to at least give yourself the best chance to feel like that?
Yeah, I know how to get there. So I know, I must get enough sleep. I certainly know that I can't have more than 1 or 2 drinks if I want to feel like that. I have to be in nature. I have to move my body. I practice yoga, I meditate, and they ground me. They bring me down. So down regulating exercises. And I'll do that as regularly as I can. I can feel right now I need to do it because I've been traveling for a few days. And I'm like, I've had a big job yesterday. I want to bring that down. So there's practices I know that get me there to that state of success. And it's a discipline to.
You know that all too well, discipline.
It's a discipline.
I'm sure, through the journey of life.
Yeah, it's not easy.
you've touched on pride a couple of times through our conversation, but if your younger self could see you now, what would she say?
I think she'd just be like, "What? What? You're doing what?" Like if
Like
I think,
amazed?
oh, totally.
Yeah.
Like blown away, just in awe, I think. If I think of that little, 14-year-old Rachel, in Ballarat on the farm, in that environment that I was in, which was beautiful and loving and supportive, but capped from it.
Quite insular.
Like capped from an opportunities perspective. To think that she then went on and went to the fucking Olympics and then got all of these degrees and had beautiful children and like worked out how to renovate properties and
Moved to
became
the other side of the
financially independent.
country.
Exactly. Traveled the world. Like now started her own business. It's amazing. And I love my life. And she would just not believe it. She'd be so stoked. She could not have imagined it.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's flip it. If you could go back and give your younger self, say 14 or 15 years old, what's the one piece of advice you'd give her that would help her on her journey ahead?
I would love to say to her that, like everything's going to be all right. Everything just works out so fucking well. So just don't sweat it. But in that,
it's funny. That is such a consistent,
is it,
talking point for a lot of our guests.
Yeah. So we overcook things, don't we? We overcook things in our
so.
heads.
And I don't know whether it's an every human thing or whether it's the grind of being an athlete.
Yeah.
And maybe being assessed every time you go out and perform.
Yeah.
But continue on. You were going to say
like
something.
You'd put your, So it's like, don't overcook it. Like just chill, relax, enjoy, let go of the grip a bit.
Yeah.
But in that, and they're related, is it took me a long time. It's only been the last, 5 years, where I really care about myself and I really speak to myself really kindly with a lot of compassion, and I'm my own mate. I'm a real advocate for myself, and I'm really safe with myself. That's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
And like, if I could talk to her and give her advice in that way, is just to be a lot kinder to yourself. Like, you don't have to. I was quite hard on myself and harsh as well. Like I would. And that showed out all the way through to the Olympics and being devastated with a silver medal. Like, I don't know where that came from necessarily, but that was a really loud voice and that's gone away. But I would want her to
be more kind.
Front end load that. Yeah, just be a bit kinder.
I love that.
Yeah.
Especially having two girls of our own.
Yeah.
It's something that I